Hey there. Welcome to the Flute 360 podcast. I'm Dr. Heidi K. Begay, and I'm a flutist, educator, coach, and podcaster. My God-given mission is to serve you. I am passionate about guiding you, the modern-day flutist, to discover your unique voice on and off the stage. The goal of this podcast is to help you thrive both as an artist and as a musicpreneur. Go ahead and grab some espresso, your favorite notepad, and let's get to it. Today's episode 255 is titled Claim Your Corner of the Music Industry with Bree Noble. Are you looking for the perfect flute or piccolo to take your music to the next level? Look no further than the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company in Plano, Texas. Since 1996, we've been the go-to source for flutists of all levels with an unrivaled selection of flutes, piccolos, low flutes, and head joints from dozens of top makers. But we're more than just a music store. We are your complete resource for everything flute related, with sheet music, instrumental accessories, teaching resources, and health information all under one roof. And our in-house staff of experts is always ready to help you find exactly what you need to achieve your musical goals. At the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company, we're committed to excellence in all aspects of our business, from our top quality products to our friendly personalized service. And with an in-house repair staff certified in all major brands, you can trust us to keep your instruments in top condition for years to come. Follow us on social media to stay up to date on the latest news and events, and visit our website at fluteforyou.com to shop our extensive selection of flutes, piccolos, and more. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, the Carolyn Nesbaum Music Company is truly your one-stop flute shop. Hi, Bree.
Hello.
How are you?
I am good. Let me pull my mic down. There we go.
I love your setup behind you. I see Michael Jackson on the bookshelf.
Got my Thriller. Yes.
Sweet. How was your weekend?
It was good.
Yeah?
It was good. Where are you located?
Dallas, Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What about you?
I am in California, Southern California.
Nice. I'm a little jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, actually, it's really not very sunny. We get June gloom here, and it really is like quite gloomy until about 2:00 almost every day.
Interesting.
Yeah. Even though I live like an hour and a half from the ocean, it's crazy.
June gloom.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw this, but this weekend, that online opportunity called Beyond the Hustle, you and I both recorded
I did
a video for Prentice.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my gosh, full circle. This is amazing. Of all the times for you and I to talk, and then this event goes out, it's like, oh, that was perfect timing.
Yeah, that is funny.
Yeah. Prentice did a really good job of going through questions and interviewing.
Yeah, she did. She did a good job with the interviews.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she's originally she lives in Chicago, and I'm originally from Chicago. So she and I had that connection, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I kind of want to shift gears and obviously talk about your line of work and your podcast. And like you said, you've done a lot in the online space and you have a lot to offer. And I can't thank you enough for being here with me and my listeners today.
Absolutely. I'm excited to be talking with you.
So I think that's a good baseline. If you want to just share about yourself and your podcast and your business, let's start there and then I can start picking your brain.
Yeah. Okay. So, just a little background. As most musicians, I've been doing music forever, was in every choir that I could be in high school, and then went on to college, was going to be a vocal major just because I love music. I hadn't really thought beyond, like, well, what was I going to do for work with this vocal major? You know what I mean? I was just like, this is what I love. I did dabble in like, maybe I'll be a music education major for a bit in there, but I was just like, it's not like, I'm not as excited about this as I am about performing. I did get a little practical bug in there and decided to also get a double major in business because I went to a school that really had more of a conservatory model. We didn't learn anything about business in the music department. And in the business department, of course, we learned about business, but it was more about like corporate stuff and a little bit about entrepreneurship, but I had a hard time kind of linking that with what I was learning from music. So I was glad for all of the stuff that I learned, but I didn't really understand how to put them together.
Mm.
And, it's funny because I look at it now and I think it seemed a little obvious, but I was just very much in this mindset of like, when I'm doing music, I'm doing music. And when I'm doing business, I'm doing business. And the twain shall not meet. I didn't know
Mm.
how to put them together. And so when I left school, because I didn't know how I could apply what I learned in music to actually making money, I went and got a job in accounting. My business degree was in like accounting and marketing. And I worked in accounting for several years. And then I ended up becoming the director of finance at an opera company, which was very cool because then I got to combine the music and the business side. But still, while I'm working as a director of finance at an opera company on the side, I'm trying to build my own music career and do stuff in music, but just kind of grasping at straws, like not knowing how to build an actual artist career because I thought that I wasn't like hip enough, cool enough, like even enough in general, like to have my own music career. I thought I needed to like insert myself into a band or something that already existed. And so I was constantly trying to find that connection. And I also thought, well, everybody else must know more than me because I feel like I don't know enough about the industry and stuff. And after trying to do that for so many years and having a lot of like frustrations and failures and band blow ups and all of that stuff, I finally realized like, nope, these people don't know more than I do. They're just trying to figure it out too.
Mm.
And, I also finally came to the realization that if I really do want to do music, like I don't want to focus on like, being famous. Like when you're in your 20s, you just think, oh, you want to be famous or you want to, somehow get into this really famous, band that does really well and stuff. And at that point, once I was in my early 30s, I was just like, I just want to spend my life doing music. And if it means I'm singing to mothers of preschoolers, every week and they're enjoying it and I'm having a great time, then that's good for me. And so I started to really lean into like, what is my niche? Like, who would really like my music? And I started to be honest with myself. Well, I tend to mostly write inspirational and Christian music. I tend to, I'm in this stage of my life at that point where I had little kids and I'm like, who can I connect with? Well, people like me, people who are moms, people who want to be inspired in life. And that's how I kind of dropped that, mothers or preschoolers, but I ended up performing at a lot of mothers or preschoolers groups because it was the stage of life I was in. And it was a network where I could like, get my name passed around to all the different ones. And so that's kind of how I built my career through performing at churches and then, connections that I made through churches and mothers of preschoolers groups and doing a combo, like a signature concert where I was speaking and singing. And it was so different from what I would thought that I was going to be doing when I was in school. I thought maybe I would be like a classical soloist, or I thought I was going to be in a rock band, and I wasn't any of those things. But it turned out to be a career that I really enjoyed.
Mm. I love all of that. I love hearing your journey. And I would be remiss not to share that I too am a Christian. And a lot of my faith and a lot of how I operate as a teacher and as a musician and as a businesswoman comes and stems from that relationship. And so thank you for mentioning that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm curious, since you've been in this musicpreneur space for some time and you have a thriving business, going back to younger Bree, you were saying a lot of things earlier on in your journey. Like, oh, I didn't know if I had enough to put myself out there, or who am I? And all of these pain points and hurdles that you were going through, in the beginning of your journey. I'm sure you've seen a lot of musicians articulate the same hurdles that you just laid out for yourself and for your path. Do you see that same language kind of come up with other musicians, like, oh, who am I, and imposter syndrome and everything else that you had described?
Oh yeah, all the time. And I think, the biggest thing with branding, when I talk to artists about branding, because they can't get their head around that. They think it's this big complicated thing, and that, I don't know, there's this like formula to it. But
Mm,
really all branding is knowing who you are and finding more people like you that will probably like what you like.
mm, mhm.
And that's what I came to, because I was constantly in those early years trying to, I tried everything. I'm telling you, like I was in like a hard rock, all male hard rock band where I was the female lead singer. Really
Uh-huh.
bad fit. I was in an all female alternative rock band, which was okay, but like really I was kind of wasting my talent singing alternative rock because it just wasn't really utilizing my voice and, what I had developed. And then I even tried like singing electronica demos. Like, I
Wow.
just tried everything because I didn't think that what I naturally did was going to appeal to anyone, because I had this
Mm,
like false sense of like I had to be in quote the music industry. But once I said like I don't have to be in like what I think of as the regular industry, and I can create my own industry of people who like what I like or naturally like what I do, that was so freeing.
mm. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. It is very freeing because I think maybe it's a part, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you see it in another way, but I think the way that we are trained as musicians so much, it's like it's kind of ingrained in our training. Like we need to get into their pocket, we need to get into or through their doors, but we
Mhm.
don't realize we can build our own doors. And that's what you just described so beautifully.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what keeps people stuck a lot in the beginning,
Okay.
is that they're only seeing a certain side of the music industry.
Okay.
And, it's hard to say, like, all of this is the music industry, right? Because it's music and it's industry, but then there's kind of this capital, the music industry, that is kind of another thing that people are thinking that they have to fit into. Whereas, there is a whole music industry of people that are consuming music, consuming performances, seeking out like different styles of music that might not fit under the capital T, the music industry. But,
Mm,
we can jump into that and have our own little, I always say like everyone can find their own little corner of the internet or the music industry or whatever you want to call it, that market.
okay. No, beautifully said. So, piggybacking off of that notion, how does one find their corner of the market?
I think it goes back to what I was saying before about branding. You
Okay.
have to be honest with who you naturally are, what your talents are naturally lie in, and who you would attract naturally, like that low-hanging fruit, people that are like you.
Hmm.
And my biggest problem in the beginning was I didn't like who I naturally was. Like
Mm,
I wanted to write like this person or that, I wanted to write like Sarah McLachlan or Sarah Bareilles or Colby Calais or whatever, like the people that I liked.
hmm.
And I didn't do that naturally.
Yeah.
They influenced me, but that just wasn't what happened. And it also wasn't really my talent wheelhouse. Like I was trained classically,
Hmm.
and I would try to like suppress that, and I'd try to be like this pop rock singer or whatever. But honestly, like what I was really good at is bridging that gap between classical show tunes and inspirational singer-songwriter pop.
Hmm.
And once I said, there's a market for the people that that like what I naturally already do. And I need to stop trying to fit myself into this, this fit myself as a square peg into these round holes, even though I so want to be that round peg.
Mm,
That's just not what God gave me.
yeah.
And I need to be happy with the square peg and find the people that like the square peg.
I love that. That is so beautiful. I don't know if you know this fable, but what you just described reminds me of this fable of a crow trying to be like a peacock.
Oh,
And
yes.
he realizes, like, there's beauty in being a crow, and just because I may be all black or more slender or a different shape than the peacock, just because I don't have the bright colors like him doesn't mean that I don't bring value, or there's not doesn't mean that there's not beauty in me being a crow. And so just owning that, and that's what I heard from your testimony.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So, thinking of the Flute 360 and knowing where they are right now, a lot of my people are coming to me and they're wanting that. They're wanting to find their corner. And now they've done air quote step one, like what you said, in the sense of be really honest and true of who you are and what you bring to the table. So, say they have that answer, say they know what corner of the market they want to live in, they know who they are, they know how they want to serve their people, etc. The biggest hurdle that I see next for my 360er is taking that leap of faith
Mm.
and doing the thing. So, is there any words of wisdom that you want to relate to them? Because I think a lot of people get stuck in that space of like, okay, I know kind of what to do now, but it's scary over there. And I don't
Mhm.
know how to cross over into that new area.
Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with starting out on the ground where you feel comfortable,
Okay.
and expanding from there. Like I
Mm,
started out, I'd been performing at churches for years, at like my church, right? But so I just started expanding a little bit about how I performed at my church. I would do more solos. I would maybe, run a special, evening where I did a little bit more, or I would, present something to our women's group or whatever that was a little more than I had done before in
okay.
church. And then, that led to, oh, wow, I love what you did there. Like people would say to me, like, I wonder if you would be willing to come perform for my women's auxiliary group that meets once a month. Like they started seeing me in a little bit of a different light. They started seeing myself in a different light. And then these opportunities started coming. Either they would come to me and be
Mm,
like, what do you think about this? Like, I love what you did there. What about doing it over here? Or I started really digging into the network that I had already in my backyard and seeing if any of them had connections where I could start performing at different places. That's how I kind of got in. Well, first I got into like a lot of the women's groups and stuff because of people that went to my church. And then, it turned out that they were pretty well connected with nonprofits. And so, then I would connect with those places and perform at those places. And mothers of preschoolers, like I went to that group first. Like that was my home turf in that I was going there in order to get fed as a mother of young children. And when I was there, I saw that they had programs and I was like, why couldn't I do that?
hmm.
Like that would be cool. So, then it's going to the people that run the group that you're in and saying, what would you think about this? And doing that. And then once you have that experience and it goes well, then you can expand and do other ones. But I think the first one I did was like, hey, Christmas is coming up. Maybe I could sing a few Christmas songs and lead us into some Christmas carols and tell a couple of stories about Christmas or whatever, and just starting it off like without so much pressure,
Mm.
and then seeing how that goes and then being able to take what you did for that and move it out into like concentric circles around where you started.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah. One of my mantras in life is kiss it, keep it simple, smarty. And so once you kiss it, and like you said, not putting that sort of pressure on yourself or unnecessary pressure to, to have it a full-fledged business right off the bat or have all these different offerings. Kiss it. Be really simple, be be mindful and say, okay, I'm going to start with this offering and whatever that is, a concert series, a teaching, summer camp, whatever it is. And then it expands, like you said.
Yep.
Yeah. Attention, all aspiring flutists. Are you tired of feeling stuck in your flute journey with no guidance or support system to propel you forward? Are you longing for a community of like-minded flutists who understand your dreams and can help you achieve them? Look no further, because the Flute 360 Accelerator program is here to revolutionize your musical growth. Our exclusive accelerator group is tailor-made for the modern-day flutist, empowering you with the tools, mentorship, and fellowship you need to soar to new heights in the music industry. Say goodbye to aimless practicing and hello to a transformative experience that will redefine your flute playing and career trajectory. With our flexible enrollment system, you can join us at any time, ensuring that you never miss out on the opportunity to accelerate your success as a flutist. Imagine the breakthroughs and achievements that await you when you seize this moment and invest in your musical future. Don't delay your transformation any longer. Enroll in the Flute 360 Accelerator program today by clicking the link in the description below. Our upcoming meetup on Saturday, July 29th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time, promises to be a game changer. You can register at any time, but if you register in the month of July 2023, then I have a special bonus for you. Your bonus is a free 1-hour flute lesson with me, which is valued at over $100. Don't miss out. Elevate your playing, forge lifelong connections, and step into the extraordinary. The Flute 360 Accelerator program is waiting to welcome you with open arms. Join us today. Because then I think what I'm hearing you say is, being on the same side of you being a businesswoman, I can easily see how 360 expanded naturally and organically based on my people. The more I was in an offering, then I heard from other flutists and other teachers, and I heard their pain points, and those conversations and those relationships got deeper and deeper. And because of that, then I could expand because I had more information and more knowledge in order to serve them better.
Exactly. I mean, and for me, so on the teaching side, right, since we're talking about that a little bit, I started out with my Female Musician Academy just because I was connected with women. I had been promoting women on my Women of Substance podcast. And, I heard their pain points, same thing, right? And then as I worked with them deeper, then I started seeing even more pain points or more specific pain points. And I could come out with different programs that could help them because I was listening and because I was, starting and testing things on them to see if it worked. And then I could bring more people in. That's how I even got to the current offering that I have called Release Concierge. It's just like I saw so many people struggling with releasing their music. And even though I had a course on it and I would coach them a little bit, like they wanted actual more hands-on help. And, so it's listening, it's testing and tweaking and then expanding out from there, whether it's performing or teaching or anything that you're doing.
No, I love that. So then I guess my next question, I'm going to still ask it, but I think my next question's already answered for the 360er. And that is, say a flutist has a 9-to-5. They're in tech, they are working for a shop, retail, whatever. They want to leave that 9-to-5. And a lot of them, again, like say, all right, now they know their niche, they know the corner of the industry, who they're serving, et cetera, everything we talked about. They want to leave the 9-to-5, but they're like, how do you bridge that gap into that new season where you start slowly cutting away hours or start slowly getting away from the full-time W-2 job and stepping into being a musicpreneur? Because that season can be really, it doesn't have to be, but it could be hazy. It could be scary. It could be like, oh my gosh, this is getting serious because I'm adulting and I have bills.
Yes.
So how do you go from a W-2 job to being a full-fledged musicpreneur?
Well, it's not the same path for everyone for sure. I think if it is possible for you to be part-time and start your business, that is ideal.
Mhm.
Because the stress of just, cold turkey, all of a sudden, like there's all this pressure on you to pay your bills. You used to make whatever, $5,000 a month and now you make zero.
Yep,
And it takes a while to build.
it
I mean,
does.
I always tell artists that, when I was performing on a regular basis, like it took me at least an entire year before I had enough referrals coming in that I wasn't constantly making cold calls to fill up my calendar,
Yeah.
and so you can't just expect that's going to happen overnight. So of course the best scenario is you're able to go part-time. And if you have a great employer and you have a good relationship with them and you can work something out, then that's the best option, I would say.
Okay.
If not, like I would probably start building this up on the weekends and evenings. And I know that that's like kind of overloading and overwhelming,
Mhm.
but I think it's just going to be a lot smoother if you're able to at least, build up a generalized clientele or at least like a referral network and stuff by doing enough on the weekends and the evenings for even just a year
Hmm.
before you jump in entirely. Because you've
Mhm.
got to have, I mean, it's not just musicians. Like I know many people that have started businesses on the side. And in general, it takes them at least a year just to break even on their
Yeah.
business. Like, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
discourage you, but
No.
this is the reality of it. And I don't want to like sugarcoat it. And then people jump in and then that happens to them. And they're like, what did I do wrong? Or, why did someone mislead me? Or what, most of the time
Mhm.
it's always like, what am I doing wrong? They're thinking because everybody else said it was so easy. And, I could get this,
Mm.
this income like built up really quickly. It's generally not true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes blood, sweat, tears, effort, and time.
Mhm. Yes, it does. No, and thank you for being honest with that because you're right. We would never want to sugarcoat anything and be like, "Oh yeah, it's like, the grass is so much greener on the other side. Come over here." And then you don't realize the blood, sweat, and tears that are happening in the background. And I like what you said, like, be realistic and manage your time wisely in the sense of, perhaps going down to part-time. That's a really good call to action because being full time and working 9 to 5, say you have a commute, right? 30, 40 minutes. And then by the time you have dinner, now it's like 8 o'clock in the evening. You could be spent.
Yep.
And you're thinking,
Yep.
how the heck am I going to start building out a website or working with a website designer on my business? So you have to be smart with your time because time is our most precious commodity. And so if it's like cutting back on the W-2 hours, or like you said too, maybe the weekends you have to sacrifice a little bit, even if it's like an hour or two that you carve out on the weekends. It's for a season. It's not going to be
Yep.
that way all the time, but you have to start somewhere. And if that means seeing your friends a little less or going to, less movies throughout the month, you may have to make that sacrifice. And not that we're saying, it has to be, we don't want you to burn out, but at the same time, things are going to have to be shifted a little bit as you're transitioning from one job into being a business owner.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is so that's like the logistical side. The
Yep.
mental side, I think is at least as powerful in that if you are in a position where you must, bring in money to pay your bills because you have nothing else,
Mm.
you are going to approach things in not as good of a position. Like, for
Okay.
example, if you're trying to get a gig, you're trying to get a client, you're going to have that desperate feeling in the back of your head, your heart, your mind. You're going to be like, I need this. Like, I need
Hmm.
this in order to pay a bill. And that's even no matter how good you are at hiding it, it's going to come across.
Yep.
It's going to come across. And I always compare it to whenever I was interviewing people for jobs as director of finance, and I would interview people for working under me. And I much, much more enjoyed those interviews of people who are moving over from another job than people that don't have a job, because they just come in so differently. They carry themselves differently. They have more confidence. They're like, I'm exploring this to see if it's actually a good fit versus I need this.
I see. Yeah. Desperation.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you nailed it right on the head, right? Where people can read that desperation in a sales call or in an enrollment call. They can. And it's just not fun as a business owner to be in that space.
No,
It's not fun.
it's not.
No. So, as you have coached hundreds of musicians in this arena, are there any other like hurdles or pain points that have come up that I have not brought up? And there's like a golden gem or something that you're just like, oh my goodness, I would love to relay this to a Flute 360er.
I mean, the thing I see that's the biggest is that life just gets in the way.
Okay.
Besides work, there's with so many artists that I work with, things come up. And if you don't have a system or a plan for dealing with it when they do, I mean, things that you can't control. A family member gets sick. Your husband gets into a car accident. These are all things that have happened to my students. And I see, a parent dies. These are all terrible things. But having a system in place to make sure that you're always moving forward on your business and your dream, even when these things are happening, even just a little bit, is going to make you feel so much better than, having to be like, I put this thing on hold for 6 months because this other thing happened. Even if you're, like you said, carving out just 30 minutes a day or whatever, if you built it into your calendar. And like, I have a student right now whose daughter got into an accident and she is totally immobile. And so she had to go move to the place where her daughter is and take care of her for it's just like a 6-month thing. But she is trying to find a way to still move forward by carving out a certain amount of time in her day when she knows that she doesn't have to be on call for her daughter and she can focus on what she wants to do for herself, because that's not only it's like that thing that they always say about put your own oxygen mask on first. And I always remembered I would go to the gym and I would feel super guilty because I put my kids in the kids club. And, because I really needed a break and I was taking care of myself. And they always had this ad that would play that said it's just like the airplane, taking care of your own fitness is just like putting on your own oxygen mask first. And I think that that's really true, because you can't be as present and as helpful for the person that you're trying to help through this life situation if you're constantly thinking to yourself, this sucks. I'm pissed. I'm losing so much time doing what I want to do, and then you get that resentment in there and all that stuff. Or you're feeling guilty or you're feeling like a failure, like all those things. If you could just put aside 30 minutes to an hour every day to find some time to work on your thing and move it forward, it's going to make you so much better in helping that other person or dealing with that life situation and not being resentful and all that, because you're still making progress.
I love that. Yeah. And even just recognizing those small victories too. There's a flutist in my Flute 360 accelerator program, and she's in that transition of leaving a 9 to 5 and building up her own flute studio. And she's like, this is just so hard making that transition. And I said, if you can just, carve out that 30 to 60 minutes, and even if you just, revamped up your website a little bit in the about page, or you set up your Facebook private group page, whatever it is, whatever that small victory is, go all out and go woohoo and do a dance or jump up and down, get some dark chocolate, something, because that's a big deal. That's a big deal because you're showing up for yourself. You're showing up for your business. You're showing up for your goals, dreams, and aspirations. And it's going to be baby steps. It's not always going to be, oh, I had a 10-hour block to sit down and, record a whole remote class or something like that, right? I mean, sometimes it looks like baby steps. Sometimes it looks like huge strides. And either way, you need to celebrate that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, because my people are singer-songwriters. I liken it to there's this thing, and you might know this, the Artist's Way, that book, where she talks about morning pages, and she's like, you just write for 30 minutes every morning. That's it. No less, no more. You write for 30 minutes every morning. And it's that habit. And then you do it. And after a few days, you're like, oh my gosh, I have enough material here for a whole song.
Yeah.
But you don't get that in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably wouldn't get that if you sat there and tried to write for 5 hours straight, because you'd hit walls and, all that stuff. So it's just those little incremental steps.
And as a businesswoman who has been in this industry, your industry, for decades, I am sure you are still implementing that habit. Small steps every day.
That's right. I mean, right now, this year, I actually I had been working as a worship director at my church, which was a 15-hour a week gig, which was cool. I could fit that in with what I was doing. But then I decided to take a more active role in using my finance side and everything. So now I'm also the business manager, and I basically have a full-time job.
Wow.
But I was able to still continue my business, figure out how to fit things in, just because I had this habit of doing a certain amount every morning at a certain time, and I knew when I did it, when I took this job, I'm like, I can totally do this, because I know that I've got this time that I always count on every day that I'm going to be working on my business, no matter what else is happening. And so far, it's so good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That can be a lot to juggle, but you've got that routine down. And so you're able to show up and see that progress that you want to see.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. To be fair, though, my kids are older. I could never have done it when my kids were little. That was why I got into the habit anyway of working in the morning, literally 5 to 7 a.m. because that is when they were still asleep. I didn't have to get them ready for school and all that. And I knew I could start my day feeling like, oh my gosh, I've already accomplished so much and they haven't even gotten up yet.
Yeah.
And I just continued that, even though now they're 20 and 14.
Okay. Sweet. Very cool. Well, Bree, I want to make sure that I respect your time. And we talked about a lot of what it means to be this modern day musician thriving in in one's own business. And thank you for just laying out what that journey starts to look like and, the hurdles of what somebody would see on the onset, because you're making this real, right? Again, going back to this notion of we don't want to sugarcoat this, this is the reality of it. And to have a system in place, a plan in place for your finances, for your schedule, for your niche and things like that, getting that all sorted out and finding that clarity, I can really see how all that information would serve the 360er so well. So I appreciate that.
I'm so glad.
Yeah. If this conversation has really resonated with a 360er, where can they find you through the socials?
Absolutely. So we are Profitable Musician LLC on Instagram, Profitable Musician on TikTok. And I just want to recommend, I know that your people would really benefit from the Profitable Musician Show, which you're obviously going to be on very soon. Excited to have you on the show. But if you go to profitablemusician.com, you can connect with the podcast. There's also a 39 little known sources of income for musicians on there that you can grab. But we just have conversations on there about how musicians of all types can make more money from music, which sure most of us, really would like to do that. So
yeah. And I will say, if you go to her website, Bree's website, and check out all the things she just mentioned, feel free to sign up to her mailing list. I'm on her mailing list and I love getting your emails, Bree. It's really great information.
Thanks. I'm so glad to hear that. Well, if you grab the 39 sources of income for musicians, you'll get on my mailing list. And
Yeah.
there's just a lot more helpful emails there too on how to utilize the PDF and everything. So definitely do that, you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I loved learning from you. And I can't wait to speak with you on Friday.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Thanks, Bree.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. If you want to be a part of a flute community that you can call your own, please join me and other 360ers in our private Facebook group. Here, we hold discussions that matter to you, share our latest victories, and support each other through our musical endeavors. All you have to do is click the link below to join our private Facebook group called Flute 360 Family. See you there. Let's talk about flute.